it, but it's like they got to put this stuff together. And you don't get 5 preseason games like the NFL does. Every game counts. Might not count as much as when conference play starts here in 2 weeks, but these games count. You got to win some of your non-conference if you want to be bowl eligible. And I just the special teams is just I don't know. I'm not saying Brock did a really good job last year until the end of the year and something got in his head and he just started whiffing them or whatnot, but he didn't even get contact with that ball, to kick the field goal. And I mean, you put 3 points, then it's 7-3. You get some points, and it does stuff to a team. I mean, but when you go down there and you leave a big goose egg, and they missed one too, but theirs was closer to 50 and not 35 or 36 or whatever the one that was missed. I mean, you can't be a Division I kicker and miss kicks like that, and it just seems, I don't know. But that's all I have to say about our special teams.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a Division I kicker, you've gotta make that. You can't miss those chip shots. It's not the first time. So if it
No,
was the first time, I guess we'd all be saying, oh, we'll give him some slack. But everything I saw in practice and in camp and everything, I thought Dominic Eberle looked really good. I think he has a lot bigger leg. I think he's got a lot more potential. He's only a redshirt freshman, but I guess that could change. They may reevaluate that this week in practice. I don't know. So, some of the positives. Um, we'll get to a few questions we got on Twitter and different people have asked, and but probably the biggest one. Well, I guess the biggest question mark obviously will start with the linebacker core. I think they I think they played quite a few different guys, but the thing I liked is they tried different combinations. So, for example, they had Brock Carmen on the inside along with Anthony Williams. So those guys were playing
yeah,
on the inside, and they had Derek Larson at the outside linebacker. Obviously, he's pretty set there, and so I think those three guys were in at the same time. Maybe even Justice Tay was in at outside linebacker as well. I can't remember which what they were playing at that exact time. But those four, I really like that combination of those four guys. And the other guys, with Huerta and Wasike, I think those guys are rotation linebackers. I think they can rotate in and they can play. I definitely don't want to say they're bad. I just like the those other four guys. I like the potential of some of those guys better than than others. So I mean, Anthony Williams, we've said it before, he's that catfish. He can have the biggest ceiling, highest ceiling of any of those linebackers, and he definitely showed it against USC. I mean, I think looking back at it, I don't know about you, Seth. Maybe you kind of stopped it a little bit more than those of us that watched it live, but I saw Anthony Williams, balling out. I saw him playing really well. So
yeah. With the linebackers, I think it was a problem all across. I mean, it didn't matter if there was D lineman or a linebacker or cornerbacks, but we had a problem tackling the football
right.
in that game. And I don't know if that was due to the athleticism or what it was, but everybody had a problem tackling. They'd make a guy miss, and there'd be 3 or 4 more yards before And it just, I, I totally agree. I think Derek Larson's going to be special. Honestly, I really do. I mean, that kid, he didn't play like he was afraid. Tade played the same way. I mean, none of those
Hmm.
guys played that way. And I mean, when you think about it, if you had Carmen and, if they decided to go with Carmen and Williams in the middle, and they put the young guys on the outside, they're going to make mistakes. It's going to happen, you know. But you got veteran guys in front of them, and Aliafua and Tungiai on the other side, um, to help. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Um, you got experienced guys in front of them to kind of to help them through that. And I just think, um, I honestly thought that USC would attack more in the middle of the field, like when we saw Weber State and how the tight ends were just killing us, but it was the dink and dunks, like you said. Um, and we might have took that away. It might have been something else that, I wasn't, whatever. But when our corners are playing 10 yards off, I mean, just because they're respecting the speed of the receiver so much, I'm assuming. Um, I mean, that's a smart play. We'll take what you're going to give us, and we're just going to march it down 15 plays, and we'll score. I mean, it's not rocket science. We didn't do anything to change, and that's what was frustrating as well. But
Yeah, especially
um,
when you've got wide receivers that can catch the ball and run and break tackles,
yeah,
and when our
I
linebackers, whether it's a pass on the outside to a wide receiver or a tight end or even a running play, some of our players were a step slow or a half step slow, and they were lunging and missing tackles and different things. So, um, you know,
I
sometimes
I,
that's to be expected, I guess, but.
I rewound it a couple times, and I was just watching our corners, and I can't remember who it was, but he was lined up on Juju on the outside, and yeah, it's Juju Schuster, and the guy's kind of a freak of nature, or whatnot. But before the ball was even snapped, the corner already had turned his hips, and he was already back. He was already backpedaling, and the receiver just runs 5 yards down the field and stops, and catches the ball, makes a move, the cornerback misses, and then he picks up 12 yards. And I mean, it's that kind of respect that they were giving him, and which, you know, I understand. You got to give them respect, but um, when does it come to a point where just let them play? Let just
Well,
try.
yeah, and,
And it
and the
just didn't.
leading tacklers, the guys all over the field were Levitt. They were centers. Obviously, Rockamore stepped up and had some good plays. I think Rockamore showed that he can hang with some of that speed and athleticism. So, I mean, that's a bad sign when those guys. But it's also a different thing if the cornerbacks were pressing and maybe missed a tackle
Missed
or
half
they went for the
picks. Yeah.
interception and missed it or something, and the centers, the safety's gotta clean up after him. I can understand that, but I don't know.
Well, that's really only my beef. After watching it, I don't think it was. I mean, the score was bad, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be by watching it. I mean, Utah State got beat by a better team on that day, um, and I think that if they can clean up the tackling, I think the defense played a lot better than I expected, even though they gave up 45 points. I mean, 14 of those was special teams, but um, they played a lot better than I was kind of anticipating. Just because, I mean, everybody that's listening, you got to think about this. We lost four linebackers to the NFL, and they replaced all four of those linebackers. I mean, it's going to be a work in progress. You know what I mean? And hopefully, by this game coming up on Friday is going to be a big, huge measuring stick. I don't think we really learned much from obviously the Weber game, and I don't think we learned a ton from. Well, we learned that Dallin Levitt's one tough SOB. But anyway, we kind of already knew that. But I don't think we really learned a ton from that game either. Um, that's not who we are. We're not going to gain 50 yards on the ground, every game. We'll rush for more than that. Um, I think Kent Myers, he had some bad balls. He had some really good balls. Um, but that's basically the first game he actually was asked to throw the ball. So that doesn't really, I know a lot of people are freaking out about how ugly his passes were and how how he looked. But I think he was 25 for 36 for over 200 yards. He did have an interception, which was a terribly thrown ball. It was a bad decision. Um, but a lot of the pluses, though, I think our D line, Seafelt, he got a lot of push. He got a lot of push in that game. Um, I know he was frustrated. And I was frustrated watching him, though. I think he's still a little rusty on wrapping up and tackling and finishing the play. Um, but I think the two best tacklers of the day were Dallin Levitt and Anthony Williams. To be honest with you, I mean I mean they got to, those guys got a hold of people. They didn't break tackles. They didn't, it was kind of a done deal once they got a hold of them. But
Yeah.
um, that's on defense anyway. But there's some positive on offense too. So
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see Utah State come out on Friday and just play a really aggressive defense. Blitz the crap out of Arkansas State, get some sacks, throw those guys off and see what happens. I think
well, I mean,
playing back on the corner on the at cornerback and playing some of those less aggressive defenses is not going to do any favors for those linebackers and inexperience. So I don't know.
I mean, those that are thinking I'm crazy about the defense playing pretty darn well, was it the one interception that we had? Rockamore's
Hmm.
one interception, right? So we turned the ball over on him, and we had 9 tackles for loss. I mean, that's I don't care who you're playing. That's pretty good in the game. I mean, 9 TFLs. I'd take it. So I mean, there's some good things to come out of it too. I think it's just a lot of just tackle better. Break down. Don't. I think a lot of these guys are still thinking things. Some of the younger guys, but um, that's on defense. I don't know if you want to talk about offense now. We can talk about offense and what you thought the positives were.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's not too much to ask the defense to play a lot better against Arkansas State for sure. Um, like you say, 9 tackles for a loss. I think Arkansas State's offensive line is not going to be as good as USC's offensive line, even with a few injuries and stuff. On offense, obviously, Devontae Mays didn't get a lot of carries. I was disappointed that Devontae Mays didn't get more carries, get a little bit more of a chance to show what he could do. Let that offensive line get out and block some people, because it didn't seem like that USC defense was being that aggressive. I don't think they weren't blitzing a lot to start that game until really the second half, and literally I said that it may have even been in the fourth quarter. I can't remember if it was third or fourth quarter, but I kept thinking, wait, Porter Gustin hasn't done much this game. It seems like he's been kind of quiet, and just then, obviously Utah State was trying to get some passing going and dropping back, and Porter Gustin completely shredded Brooksby and went right by him and sacked Myers. So, and up to that point, they weren't you know they weren't getting that pressure. They weren't even blitzing. So I don't know. That was kind of disappointing to me. But anyway, we're on to the positives. I think one of the huge positives, not only Wyatt Houston, who caught some big passes, he's definitely proving to be a big part of this offense and a big part of the passing game. Maybe even the go-to receiver for that matter. I think he's been a huge, not surprise, but obviously, it was a positive in that game, especially and so far this season. Another guy at wide receiver that I was really impressed with was Ronquavian Tarver. I think he and Jaron Colston Green are going to get more playing time for sure, going here on out.
Yeah, those are the guys that stood out for me as well. Tarver obviously